Hello everyone and welcome to my review for Black Clover chapter 292. Before I get into this week's review, I of course have to mention my subscriber goal for 2021, hitting 5,000 by the end of the year. So if you're already a fan of my videos and you're not subscribed, you might as well help me reach that goal. The other thing is my Patreon, if you want to help support me and the channel directly, or you want to get access to some solo leveling and omniscient reader videos, you can always become a patron. There's a link to my Patreon down in the description. With that out of the way, let's get on with the review. The content drought over the last few weeks is finally coming to an end as Golden Week is over and Jujutsu Kaisen is coming back next week. And to kick off the end of this drought, we have a new chapter of Black Clover. So in the last chapter, we saw Magna's Soul Chain Deathmatch. I think that's what it was called. Which is a pretty strong ability. It takes your magic and the magic of the person you're connected to, and it adds it all together and divides it evenly among you. Which, as you can imagine, for someone as weak as Magna, using that on someone as strong as Dante makes that a really powerful ability, because that gives Magna a massive boost in power. So a lot of this chapter is explaining how Magna learned this ability, and he learned it by getting some help from Zora. Because Zora's rune magic, his ash trap thing, it takes other people's magic and it doubles it before sending it back to them. So for Magna, who's someone who has pretty weak magic, at least in comparison to a lot of the other members of the Black Bulls, and especially a lot of the enemies that they're facing, being able to do something like that would be a massive help for him, because Magna is one of the weakest members of the Black Bulls. He's got a rivalry with Luck, and Luck's gotten way stronger ever since the end of the Elf Reincarnation arc. So he really needs to catch up, and he feels that Zora is the one person that can really help him do that. And when he's begging Zora for help, it kind of reminds him of his dad. Which is nice. I like Zora a lot. I'm glad that he's back. He's been sorely missed in his absence, so I'm quite happy to see that he's back. Not just here in this flashback, but also that he's just back in the story in general. It's probably because I'm just watching through Hunter x Hunter now. I'm watching through the chairman election arc, but Zora's appearance reminds me a lot of Hisoka. I don't know if that's just me or if anyone else sees that resemblance, but they look fairly similar to me. But yeah, so we find out that Zora has a secret base where he's been figuring out how to create runes for, his spell traps. And he explains the difference between the mana method that a lot of the other wizards are using and the trap spells that he uses. It's because that those who use mana method have a shitload of mana and can just kind of do it on the fly. They can just create these runes. But for peasants like Zora, who don't have a lot of magic, the only thing they can do is keep the runes there. However, that is an advantage in itself, because that means that you can add on to it. You can create a bunch of runes, you can create arrays to create very complex traps and stuff like that. So that's pretty much what Zora's entire fighting style is based around, and it's kind of how all of his magic works, is it's based around the idea of preparing for things ahead of time. So for Magna, who's kind of impatient and not very smart, learning to do stuff like this is going to be kind of hard for him, but he's driven to do it, so he does. And he eventually comes up with this idea that since his mana is so weak, wouldn't it be great if he could just take the mana from other strong people? Oh wait, that's a great idea. So we get a very convenient little diagram explaining how this ability works. It's how Magna said it works, but, putting it into visuals makes it much easier to understand. So Magna, let's say Magna has 2 mana points, and Dante has 1,000 mana points. When you use this spell, you combine that all to get 1,002, and each of them gets 501. So, in theory, now they're both on an even playing field, and this allows Magna to fight someone as strong as Dante. And this also means that Dante is not able to use his power to its full extent. Like, we still see him using gravity magic and body magic, but it's nowhere near to the extent as, say, when he was fighting Yami and Asta, where he's only doing, like, kind of very basic gravity manipulation, making Magna heavier, making his punches heavier, using body magic to heal himself, stuff like that. So he's still, like, fairly strong, but he's not unbelievably powerful like he usually is. To the point where, you know, Magna's punches can actually kind of, well, not harm him, but they can push him around. So I'm not sure how well this fight is going to go for Magna. He's doing a bit better than I'd expected. Well, honestly, we're getting like an actual fight here. So I guess it's just taking longer than I'd expected. But he's doing fairly well against Dante so far, and I think that's mostly because Dante is one of those characters that's relied almost entirely on how strong his magic is and hasn't had to bother really learning to do anything else. Which, you know, is the weakness of those characters. People that have, like, super crazy hacks abilities that don't really require them to do anything when it comes to, like, skills. When those abilities aren't available to them, they're kind of trash. And it seems like that is much the same for Dante here, who is still, like, fighting back against Magna. He's still kind of punching him around a bit. But Magna is kind of rocking Dante's shit, like, smashing him into the ground. So, yeah, I think Dante is going to get the upper hand eventually, but he's not going to kill Magna. Like, if that's anything you guys are worried about, he's not going to kill Magna. Magna's going to be fine. But I do think probably in the next chapter, assuming that we continue showing this and don't go over to the other members of the Dark Triad, we're probably going to see Dante figure out a way to beat Magna. It's probably going to involve something using, you know, a less extreme version of body magic. Well, it's still body magic, but not doing something super crazy with it. Or maybe just figuring out how to fist fight someone, I guess. So for the other members of the Dark Triad, there's not really anyone that would show up for Zenon, because Yuno is already there. Like, I guess the other members of the Golden Dawn could show up. Like, that's about it. But for Vanica, I do think that Noelle is probably going to show up to save Charlotte, and Rill. I think Rill is there. So we're probably going to see the fruits of whatever training Noelle has done with the elves there. So if we cut away, it's probably going to be to that. It's probably going to be to Noelle and Vanica, because I think Yuno's kind of doing his own thing. So we should probably address, like, the other characters first, like new people coming up on the scene that are going to make a big difference, as opposed to with Yuno, where Yuno is actually probably still kind of doing fine against Zenon. He had, like, the least reaction to Zenon going 100% out of any of the other people fighting the Dark Triad. So I do think Yuno needs, like, the least help with fighting Zenon. So we'll see what happens with the other members of the Dark Triad. I'm wondering when Asta's going to show up. Probably whenever things start getting bad for Magna. However, you can't break the chain. The soul chain can't be broken. So Dante will be stuck to Magna, probably until Magna deactivates the spell or dies. So as long as Magna is around, Asta will be able to 1v1 Dante even without his Devil Union. So that'll be convenient. But yeah, unfortunately, it seems that Black Clover is going to be on break next week. So we're going to have to wait a whole 2 weeks for the next chapter. Oh well, I guess. Having to wait 3 weeks for a new Jujutsu Kaisen chapter has taught me the gift of patience. So, welcome to the club, people. But yeah, with that, that's all I have to say for this week's review. If you enjoyed, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you don't miss any of my uploads. I do Black Clover chapter reviews. Every week we get a chapter. If you enjoy other series such as Record of Ragnarok, Jujutsu Kaisen, Kengan Omega, and Kaiju number 8, I do videos in those series as well, so if you're interested in those, you should definitely check out my channel. If you enjoy discussing Black Clover with other people, or you just enjoy the content I produce on this channel, I have to just check out my Discord server. I have linked that down in the description. Since it's the end of the video, it's time to give a shout out to my wonderful patrons, and the recipients of this video's shout out will be Dijon Redden, Anthony Chavez, Honey Mustard, and Zach Rowitz. Thank you all very much for supporting me on Patreon. I greatly appreciate it. And if you too want to get a shout out at the end of videos or access to some extra content, you can always become a patron as well. There's a link to my Patreon down in the description. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys around. Take care.